Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and Open Mic is the show that is just a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler talking about movies, a little bit of TV, a little bit of whatever it is you want to talk about. You know, the John Campea show in the mornings, we save a little bit of time for live questions, but it's all we want to do here on Open Mic is taking your live questions. So, without any further ado, let's get right to the questions today. A bunch of you guys have already sent in some questions, so let's get things started. And the first question comes to us from Adam Griffin, who writes, has Donald Glover lowered his chances and turned Disney off from casting him as Lando in future projects after his Deadpool script jabbing at Marvel? I honestly, I saw the, I'll probably talk about this a little bit more on the John Campea show tomorrow. For those of you who didn't see, Donald Glover just put out a tweet because there were some false reports going around saying that the reason that the Deadpool animated project fell apart was because Donald Glover was too busy. But FX never said that's why they ended the project. FX just said, hey, we have creative differences with Donald Glover and his brother, and that's why we're going to cancel the series and not do it. Then some reports ran around saying that Donald Glover backed out because he was too busy. Donald Glover simply got on Twitter and said, I'm not too busy, just to be clear. And he posted like the first 15 pages of one of the Deadpool scripts. I don't see that. There's some people interpreting that as him taking a shot at FX. I didn't interpret that as him taking a shot at FX. Some people say it was him taking a shot at Marvel. I didn't interpret that him taking a shot at Marvel at all. Not in the least, as a matter of fact. I thought he just put it out to say, hey, to be clear, it's not because I was too busy. Here's even some of the script. I was looking forward to doing this. That's it. I really don't see there being anything more to it than that. So, no, I don't think he's lessened the chances of him doing that at all, Adam. I think everything's still fine. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next one today comes to us from K.O. Rourker, who writes, if Disney buys Fox, when do you think Marvel can begin integrating the Fantastic Four and X-Men into the MCU? Have an awesome day. Well, it's a long ways off. It's a long ways off. First of all, we don't know if the deal ever will go through. Secondly, if it does go through, Kevin Feige has said exactly, what we said the whole time. Kevin Feige has publicly said he's not even thinking about it. He's not even considering X-Men or Fantastic Four or any of that. He said he's not even thinking about it right now. He goes, the deal's got to be made official before I even start thinking about it. Which is the wise thing to do. Why start wasting your time thinking about something that may never happen? So what's the point of that? So let's say it takes like another year. Because after all, the whole AT&T and Time Warner thing is still dragging on. So let's say it takes at least another year before everything can become official. If it becomes official. Let's say it takes another year. Then at that point, Kevin Feige and the Brain Trust really start thinking about it. Then maybe a year after that, something actually goes into production. A year after that, something comes out. So we're probably still a good 3 years away. Minimum. That's my guess. At any rate, is that we're probably still a good 3 years away. If the deal goes through. Probably a good 3 years away before seeing anything Fantastic Four X-Men related in the MCU. That's my best guess at this point. Let's see. Zizu writes, when do you think Warner Brothers will stop making DCU films in advance? After Wonder Woman 2, do you think they will stop filming new ones and see how Aquaman and Shazam do first? I don't know about that. I mean, I think you can't be completely reactionary, right? I think you need to just look, Aquaman's shot, Aquaman's done, Shazam's on the way. Let those two movies do. You need to make up your mind and your decisions before those movies come out. Because those individual movies aren't going to change anything. No matter how good or bad those two movies do, they're not ultimately going to change anything. You got to decide if you're Warner Brothers. Look, I think they need to reboot. Other people think they don't. Whichever they go with, they need to decide and make a decision and not just be reactionary. They've got 5 films under their belt. They just did Justice League. They've got a big enough sample size there to know what's working and what's not. And you got to take leadership. You got to have some leadership in this situation. And they just need to make a decision and not sit around and go, oh gosh, I wonder what's going to happen with Aquaman. And then they just be completely reactionary, because what happens? Aquaman comes out and it's a hit. Oh, okay, Aquaman's a hit. Now we can do things this way. Okay, then what happens when the next film isn't? Oh no, the next film wasn't. Now we got to change directions again. You got to have some leadership here. Make your decision about what you're doing before December, for heaven's sakes. And I think they are. I think Warner Brothers is making up their minds. But you got to make these decisions before and not just be reactionary. Because if you're just reactionary, then you got to react all again when the next film comes out. And then when the next one comes out, what if the next one does bad? Well, what if the next one does good? And then you're just living film to film like that, and you can't do that. You can't do that. So I think they're going to have their mind made up before Aquaman and Shazam comes. Now, whether they're going to do what I think they should do, who knows? But they're going to make a decision that they think is best for them. And then fingers crossed, whether it's what I think they should do or whether it's not, fingers crossed that whatever they decide works. And we start getting a really good, thriving, healthy cinematic universe out of them. All right, Ben Rayner writes, over under 35%, Yondu pops up in Captain Marvel. Ooh, that's a neat question. Because, oh my goodness, they were working for Ronan. Yondu was working for Ronan at one point. We know Ronan's going to be in it. Wow, that's a really good question. You know what? I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take the over on 35%. I'm not saying he's going to be in it. Like if you set the number at 60 or something, I take the under. But at 35% that Yondu pops up in Captain Marvel. Yeah, I like it. I like that. I'm going to take the over on that. That's a really neat idea. Let's see. Ben Rayner writes, Deadpool 2 X-Force Never Say Die reference. Funny or forced? I think it'd be funny. I think that would be funny, actually. Chris Bradford writes, the other day you said Daphne Keen can't speak fluent English, but I just watched an interview with her and she can speak English very well. You know what's funny? I never saw an interview with her. I just saw her audition tape. And the audition tape, and maybe this is just how good she is, made it sound like she could barely speak English. But I've had a couple of people, Chris, write to me and say they've actually heard Daphne Keen interviewed before and say that she actually speaks English quite well, which is something I didn't know. This is why it's great having a film fan community. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if she's a good enough actress because we never heard her speak enough other than in Spanish. I still don't know that she's a good enough actress to carry a film. Like she was dynamite as a side character. While Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart did all the heavy lifting. It's not terribly difficult to look pretty good when you're acting next to Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart. Does she have what it takes at this point to actually carry a film on her own? I have my doubts. However, she was just recently cast in a His Dark Materials series, and she's going to be one of the leads. And I think any doubts I had are going to get addressed, whether positively or negatively. But I think any doubts that I have about her at this point are going to be addressed pretty quickly. So we'll see. Yes, she absolutely can. She's in a place already that she can lead a film and carry a film on her own, which again, I have my reservations that she can. But maybe we'll see her in that and go, oh my God, yep, she can absolutely do it. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's see, next one. Adamus95 writes, hey, John, hope you're having a great day. I am having a great day, as a matter of fact. With Disney's success with its live-action remakes, can you see Warner Brothers doing a live-action version of The Iron Giant? I don't know. Disney's live-action remakes, to this point, have been about films that have gone back generations. Whether you're talking about Cinderella, whether you're talking about Maleficent, or things like that. Beauty and the Beast is a relatively new one. Of course, it's a tale as old as time. Could they do the Iron Giant? I don't know, man, because that would be a big budget project. Iron Giant would be a big budget project, and I'm not sure the market would be there for that. So I'm going to say no. I can't see them doing it because I just don't know that it would make business sense. But I mean, who knows? Maybe Ready Player One comes out. There's this huge flux of Iron Giant nostalgia, and everybody starts wearing Iron Giant t-shirts, and then maybe that convinces the Warner Brothers to do something. I still don't think so, but, you know, it's possible. It's not absolutely out of the realm of possibility, especially considering he's about to be in Ready Player One, so we'll keep that in consideration. All right, let's see. Next one comes to us from Luke1234, who writes, what's your favorite death scene in a movie? For me, it's Alex Murray in 1987's RoboCop. That's a cool one. Best death movie. Death scene in a movie. Oh, I don't know. That's one of those wild... I mean, it's a good question, but it's one of those wild, out of left field questions that I would have to sit down and think about for a long time. I mean, Vader's death is obviously a great one. Mufasa's death is a great one. Yeah, I'd have to think about it. It's a really good question. It's a great topic, but not a great topic for off the top of my head kind of thing. But it's a good question. What about you guys? What's some of your favorite death scenes in movies? Jump into the comment section below and let me know what you think. Let's see. Luke1234 also writes, other than family, what do you miss about Canada? Oh, Four Seasons is one. I mean, a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy when I say my favorite season is winter. Winter is my favorite season. There's something about the crispness in the air, especially when there's new snow, the world just feels new. There's something about it, and maybe it's also because Christmas is my favorite time of year, and winter makes me think of Christmas and all that kind of stuff. More of a hockey culture. Despite the fact that Los Angeles has won 2 Stanley Cups, there's barely any hockey culture here, which is a crying shame. Oh gosh, the food, the climate, the air's cleaner. The general disposition of people. I mean, Canadians, the stereotypes are true. Canadians are just generally friendlier, more polite people. But yeah, there's a lot I miss about Canada. Great things, great advantages about being in the States. Wonderful things. But if you're asking me specifically about which things I miss in Canada, those are the things I miss. Adam Griffin writes, opening weekends, Avengers 1, 207 million. Avengers 2, 191 million. Civil War, Avengers 2.5, 179 million. What in these numbers makes us think Infinity War will make 200 plus million? Films with these main characters are on a downward trend. And that's a valid point. Valid point, Adam, completely. However, there's a couple of things to keep in mind here. Number one, Avengers Infinity War is coming right on the heels of one of the most successful comic book films of all time in Black Panther. The hype, the energy, the enthusiasm around the MCU is just lights out at the moment. It's also, and then Black Panther came right on the heels of Thor Ragnarok, which was beloved, big success. So you've got this big rolling boulder of momentum going on right now with the MCU. Also, it is kind of the culmination, the beginning of the culmination, if you will, of what everything the MCU has been up till now. Also, we're seeing people's reactions to the trailers has been huge. The fact that it's set, I mean, granted, you shouldn't put too much stock in advance sales tickets records because, pardon me, it's people buying advance tickets online is still a relatively growing thing. So next week, a new film will have that record. And then the week after that, a new film will have that record. So and it's going to be like that for the next year or two, I think. So granted, that's not a big deal, but still, it says something that, like, Avengers Infinity War sold more advance tickets in 6 hours than Black Panther did in its first 24 hours. So that says something. So while the points you're raising here, Adam, are very valid, these are valid points, I think there are some other valid points that people could point to say it's going to exceed, you know, the Avengers record for comic book movie openings at $207 million. And I think it will. I don't think it'll catch Star Wars The Force Awakens numbers, but I do think it'll beat the Avengers numbers. But then again, look, I'm not going to fall out of my chair in shock and surprise if opening weekend's like $191 million. Hey, if it opens to $191 million, amazing. Huge total. One of the biggest box office openings of all time. I won't be shocked. But I also won't be shocked if it opens to like 225, you know, at the same time. So I think there's really good reasons on both sides here. We'll see how it plays out. I think it'll beat the Avengers. I do think it'll beat the first Avengers. Let's see. Orange Hand writes, thoughts on the hipster mindset of This thing is popular, therefore it sucks. I can't take it. Well, to be honest and fair to hipsters everywhere, that's a mentality that's been around since before hipsters. Like, people hear a song, oh, I like that song. Then it's like the #1 song. Oh, I hate that song. I mean, that's a human tendency thing. So let's be clear about that. That whole mindset has been around long before even the term hipsters, before the term hipsters was ever coined. But you're right, I can't stand it. Oh, it's popular, therefore I don't like it. Yeah, that is kind of a ridiculous mentality to have. That's a sheep mentality. It's like, just consume it, whether it's food, music, movie, television show, whatever. Consume it, and then decide. Then just say whether it's good or not. Don't take into consideration whether it's popular or unknown at the time. And then decide if you like it or not. But this whole thing of, I like it because it's popular, or I hate it because it's popular, that's just, both of those extremes are sheep mentality. Don't be a sheep. All right, next one. Adamus95 writes, also, when can we expect the trailer for The Meg? If I'm not mistaken, I think The Meg opens up in August. Hold on a second. Let me just look this up. The Meg release date. I believe it opens in August. Yeah, August 10th. So we're almost in April, May, June, July. 4 months away. Probably pretty soon. I mean, probably like a lot of other movies, they might just be waiting for Avengers Infinity War to open before they start dropping trailers. They might be a little bit concerned, and I don't know this, I'm speculating. They might be a little bit concerned about any trailer they drop right now is going to have some buzz for a second and then get drowned out by the Avengers Infinity War. We got Ready Player One opening this week. So they might be wanting to take it a little cautious. I mean, it's possible we may not see a Meg trailer till June. It's possible. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world either. Again, I keep pointing this out, it's an extreme situation, but John Wick didn't drop its first trailer until a month before the movie came out. And it did fine. They might be saying, you know what, let's just wait till May is done, and we've got Avengers Infinity War out of the way, we got Solo out of the way, and we got Deadpool 2 out of the way. Because if we drop a trailer now, it's just all the enthusiasm is gonna get sucked out of it for all these other films. So it's possible we might be another month or two away, or like 2 months away. But it can't be any further than that. So I'd say at the very latest, you're gonna see a Meg trailer at like the end of May, beginning of June. At the latest, I think. All right, let's move on here. Next one comes to us from Stefan Gonzalez, who writes, totally agree with you with what you said earlier about professional voice actors not getting enough roles in movies. Rob Paulson, Tara Strong, and Kevin Conroy are some of my favorite voice actors. Who are yours? Well, Kevin Conroy is obviously a big, clear one. You know what? I don't know. I mean, obviously, unless you go inside the Transformers and start talking Transformer voices, which, you know, Peter Cullen has done a hell of a lot of movies and TV shows outside of Transformers. Like, go look up an IMDb on Peter Cullen, and you'll be shocked how many cartoon characters he's actually done that you watched and remember as a kid. I don't have a big laundry list of some of my favorites. I just know that, hey, there is this body of actors who specialize exclusively in voice acting. Therefore, I'm sorry, they're all better at it than your traditional movie actors are, because that's all they do. They just focus on that. Think of it like this. MMA and boxers, right? MMA is clearly the best combat sport in the world. But you put somebody like, I don't know, you put any MMA fighter, like they just did, put an MMA fighter, take the notorious one, put them into a boxing ring with a legitimate boxer, like Floyd Mayweather. Like, well, what are you talking about? In MMA, we do boxing. Yes, in MMA, you do boxing, but boxers, that's all they do. Is boxing. They do boxing, pure boxing, 24/7. Yeah, if they get into an MMA ring, they'll get destroyed in 30 seconds. But you put an MMA fighter into a boxing ring with a real boxer, that boxer is going to be double, at minimum twice as good as the MMA fighter. It's just common sense. Voice actors, maybe these Hollywood actors are overall better actors than the voice actors, sure. But these voice actors, that's all they do. They mastered the art of voice acting specifically for the animation medium and others like it. You're going to get 10 people, like no matter how good Tom or like Octavia Spencer or Craig Robinson are in this Dr. Dolittle movie, no matter how good they do, there is a voice actor who will do it triple as good. Triple as good. Because that's all they do, is they focus on and master the art of voice acting. They're 10 times better than any of these Hollywood actors are going to be doing the same thing. Now, there are very rare exceptions for sure. I've said that before. Mike Myers doing Shrek is iconic. You know, there are some exceptions. Yes, I'm not going to say there's never an exception. But for the most part, I do not see why, when there's a voice role needed, that they just go for the name recognition. Like, Tom Holland, well, he's Spider-Man, so yeah, people will come and see him do the voice of a dog. I mean, get a voice actor, you'll get a better performance. Maybe not live action, go with Tom Holland in live action, but if you just the voice, go with somebody who that's all they do. Anyway, just kind of the way I think. And look, I'm not necessarily right. I could be dead wrong about it. That's just my opinion, though. Let's see. Cobra writes, Kubrick, best director without an Oscar. Ooh. Let's see. I've never even thought about that before. We've always been talking about in terms of best actors without an Oscar. Kubrick was nominated for 1, 2, 3 Academy Awards in directing. Oh, I'm sorry, 4. 4 Best Director Academy Award nominations, never won. He got nominated for Dr. Strangelove. He got nominated for 2001: A Space Odyssey. He got nominated for Clockwork Orange. And he got nominated for Barry Lyndon. He's won, let's see. Oh, no, he didn't. That wasn't even his award. Wow, you know what? Well, Christopher Nolan has got to be in that conversation as well. Christopher Nolan doesn't have an Academy Award. I'd have to sit down and go through a list of directors without an Academy Award, but man, Koba, I mean, like leading off the conversation with Stanley, that's a good one to lead off the conversation with. I think any conversation would probably have to start with Stanley and Christopher. Those are the 2 guys you'd have to start off the conversation with. That's a really good thought, that one. Maybe that's a conversation we've had so many conversations about best actor without an Oscar, best actress without an Oscar, but maybe we need to start talking about best directors without an Oscar. That's a good one too. Orange Hand writes, do you think Cap would be okay with the Accords if he and the Avengers had a hand in writing it? P.S. Did you know Chris Evans is Team Iron Man? Well, I'm sure he said that, but I don't think he really is. Well, I mean, would he have done this? If you changed this, and this? Well, it all depends. If they had a hand in writing it and he was able to put in safeties and safeguards to make sure that they'd be able to still do what they need to do and not be on... Because under the whole thing, Captain America no longer trusts the system. He put his trust in S.H.I.E.L.D. He found out he was being used and manipulated and that Hydra was behind it and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't trust the system right now. And no matter whether or not he had a hand in the Accords, he was not going to trust putting the authority about when he can act and when he can't act into the hands of politicians. He just didn't feel good about that. He just had a terrible experience with that. So, you know what? I was initially going to say, yeah, probably if he had a hand in writing it, but you know what? I'm going to take that back. I don't think that would be consistent with the character. So, no, I don't think he would. I don't think Cap would have been okay with it. Chris Martin writes, watched the new Jumanji a few nights ago. I was surprised how funny and entertaining it was. You and me both, man. Like, I went into Jumanji because, look, I like Kevin Hart's and Dwayne The Rock Johnson's chemistry together because I like them in Central Intelligence together. I like Jack Black. When he's on, Jack Black is really entertaining. Like, just go watch, like, Tropic Thunder, right? When Jack Black is on, he's really good. And, you know, the premise is cute, so I was expecting it to be okay. I adored the movie. I mean, it didn't end up in my, like, top 6 or 7 films of the year or anything like that, but I really had a great time with Jumanji. I've watched it like 4 or 5 times. and I bought it on digital the day it came out. I really enjoyed that film, and I'm like you, Chris. I was not expecting to like it. It was far more entertaining. Far more entertaining than I thought it would, and probably far more entertaining than it has any business being. But yeah, it was quite an eye-opener. I really enjoyed it. Chris also writes, I hope we get more musical films in the vein of The Greatest Showman. Music was great. Honestly, I had to force myself to watch La La Land. Wasn't a fan. I really loved La La Land. I did. And La La Land's a better movie than Greatest Showman. The Greatest Showman's main strength is its music. Outside of the music, it's not the strongest film. Now, fortunately for The Greatest Showman, most of the film is the music, and that's why I adore the movie so much, because of all the musical numbers. As a film, not so great. La La Land as a film is great. And the music is good. There's a couple of very, very good numbers in La La Land. But I can listen to, for instance, I can listen to the Greatest Showman soundtrack way more than I can listen to the La La Land soundtrack. Like a lot more. I thought the music in Greatest Showman was superior. But I also thought La La Land was the superior movie. So one was stronger in A, one was stronger in B, that sort of thing. But it all comes down to whether or not it makes great music. And that was the saving grace for Greatest Showman, was that the music was great. King of the Hills 34 writes, over under 90%, we as an audience, over under 90%, we as an audience hear, wow, a whole bunch more comments came in after the super chat glitches. Yeah, probably. I'm going to take the over on that at that point, to be honest with you. It's probably safe to take the over that's going to happen. Let's see. King of the Hills. You don't have to correct yourself. I understand what you got it. Hole. Got it. Who Flung Poo writes, John, curious to know how spot on How I Met Your Mother was on Canadian stereotypes and thoughts on the Canadian comedy classic Strange Brew. One question per submission, Who Flung Poo. I'll go on Strange Brew. Love Strange Brew. Love Strange Brew. And it ain't because it's Canadian. I loved Strange Brew when I was a little kid as a Canadian before I cared whether I was Canadian or some other nationality. Strange Brew is awesome. And a bunch of it was filmed in my hometown of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. It is amazing. I know a whole ton of you who never watched Strange Brew. Do yourself a favor. Check it out. Dave Thomas, Rick Moranis. Classic. All-time classic. Okay. Dakota Barber writes, seeing Ready Player One soon. How is the action? Love Spielberg. The action's fantastic. I felt like I was on a roller coaster ride. Even though, it's all in a virtual world and everything like that, I thought it was exhilarating. I love the action in this movie. And here's a good thing, too. Even a lot of movies that have great action aren't able, oftentimes, to capture the sense of adventure in it. And I talked about that in my review a little bit. It's that Steven Spielberg might be the best director I've ever seen at capturing the spirit of adventure within the action. And that's what you get. You feel like you're on an adventure. You're not just watching a great fight, right? You're not just watching a great fight. There's a whimsical sense of adventure associated with it that Steven Spielberg somehow, as a director, is able to connect with you as an audience on that level. And I adore it. It might be my favorite movie of the year so far. Granted, 2018 is very, very young, but Ready Player One may be my favorite movie of the year so far. KW Garrett writes, your choice for worst Bond movie. I nominate The World Is Not Enough with Denise Richards as a nuclear scientist. I'm also thrilled about landmark MoviePass news. Worst one? The one on the space station. The one in space. I'm trying to remember the name of that one. But that one is my vote. And yes, the landmark MoviePass news might be exciting, depending on if, MoviePass decides to continue to be evil, or if they decide to not be evil. If they decide to be evil and pull the same stunt that they pulled with Death Wish and Red Sparrow, where, hey, Death Wish signed up for us as a sponsor. We're going to promote Death Wish, and we're not going to let you go see Red Sparrow. Like, if they do that, then, yeah, the moment I find out that, oh, now if you live in this area with this area code, If you live in this area code, MoviePass will only let you go to that landmark theater. If they start doing that, then that's just them being more evil. If they don't, then it is great news. It is great news. I talked about that. If you want to hear more of my commentary on that, check out this morning's John Campea show. But yeah, it could be really good. Here's hoping. Fingers crossed. Last of the Time Lords writes, thoughts on Margot Robbie Tarzan movie? Well, it's not her movie. It's Skarsgård's Tarzan movie. I liked it. I did. I like Skarsgård's Tarzan movie. It wasn't great, but I thought it was good. I had a good time with it. Samuel Jackson was Sam Jackson in it. You know, so I dug it. I enjoyed that film. Time Lords writes, my friend told me a rumor, and I don't know if it's true, but my friend said that Christian Bale would consider coming back as Batman in the DCEU if he thought the script was right and the rumors right. Is the rumor true? Nope, totally false. I've spoken to Christian Bale, and he's directly said he's never playing comic book movies again. He's never playing superhero movies again. Now, maybe if he ever did say that, then he was just being politically nice. But he has no desire. He's never going to be in a comic book movie again. At least that's what he said. So no, I wouldn't believe that rumor for a second. I also remember there was a stupid rumor going around that before they cast Ben Affleck and all that kind of stuff, there are these rumors that Warner Brothers had offered Christian Bale like $200 million or something ridiculous. You guys remember this rumor? It was all bullshit. None of that was true. But anyway, Ethan Hunt writes, hey, John, when I talked about one person versus a panel earlier, I wasn't saying that one was better than the other. I just prefer one person because I'm impatient and want to get to the point and move on. Oh yeah, nothing wrong with that, Ethan. And like I said in my answer to you earlier today, like, it's not that one is better than the other. One can be great, the other can be great. It's all about what works for you. What works for you. I myself, like I said, when I watch a lot of ESPN, I watch Around the Horn. That's a big panel of people. And I watch Colin Cowherd, who's now on Fox, actually. And I also watch Colin Cowherd, who's a one-person show, right? And I used to watch Mike and Mike when they were still a thing. I just can't get into this Golic and, what's his name? Gingo or something? I just can't get into that. That's not Mike and Mike. But anyway, I miss Mike and Mike. But I can get into two-person panel, five-person panel, one-person. It all works for me as long as communicators are good. But depending on who you are, one style may connect a little bit better with you. Like a one-on-one style may work better for you. A panel style may work better for another person. It's all good. It's all good. So thanks for sharing that, Ethan. I appreciate that. Let's see. ZOMG Ruler writes, I think Infinity War will end up with domestic 530 million, 1.6 billion worldwide. That's not a bad number. Both of those numbers aren't bad. I think you're closer with the 1.6 billion worldwide. I think it may go. I think your 530 domestically might be a little bit low, but not unreasonably low. Like it could very well be 530, and 530 would be an astounding success. I think that number might be a little bit high, and then I think the worldwide number will come right in around that 1.6. Maybe 1.7, 1.8. A $2 billion film is not out of the question here. The $2 billion club is not off the table here. It is possible it could hit the $2 billion, but I like that 1.7 to 1.8 million or billion dollar range. That's where I'm kind of putting it right now. But then again, a lot of that will have to do whether people like the movie or not. If the movie ends up being ass, then those projections will come down. But if it's as good as we're hoping it is, I think that 1.7, 1.8 billion range is a nice range. So 1.6 is pretty close to where I'm thinking too. Let's see. Time Lords writes, over under 20% that Christoph Waltz returns in the next Bond movie. I'll take the over on that. If you were to say 70%, I'd take the under, but 20%, yes, I feel comfortable. If you're going to give me a line of 20%, I feel comfortable taking the over on that one. Let's see. And here we go. A whole bunch more questions came in. Okay. And I'm going back, and I'm going back. Further. Here we go. Okay, we're caught up now. The 510 Zone writes, what's up, John? Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much, 510. Have you heard anything about the biopic King Kamehameha Hawaii's first monarch starring Dwayne Johnson. All I remember is that Dwayne Johnson talked about that. I remember that. That was a while ago, though. I honestly don't know off the top of my head, and I never knew the king's name, by the way. I just remember him talking about doing a thing about like the first king of Hawaii, or the first head of the Hawaiian, whatever, however he described it. But that was a couple of years ago. I don't personally recall hearing anything about any concrete steps for that moving forward. I don't personally remember any of that. Maybe there were some announcements made and I'm just forgetting about them. But I haven't heard anything other officially, at any rate, other than remembering Dwayne Johnson once talking about it. But that's about as much as I know. I mean, if I do a quick search here, give me a moment, guys. If I look for Dwayne Johnson, and we look under his acting resume here. Oh my God. Okay, as of right now, Dwayne Johnson has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He has 13 films listed as upcoming. 13 films. So you got the Jansen directed San Andreas 2, Jungle Cruise, Jumanji 2, Doc Savage. I'm looking forward to Doc Savage. Black Adam, if that ever happens. Big Trouble in Little China. We remember about that. Rampage, Skyscraper, Fighting with My Family, Hobbs and Shaw, the Fast and Furious spin-off film. Suicide Squad 2, which is denoted as just a rumor. And another one called Red Notice. So nothing on his agenda right now, but oh my God, that's how busy The Rock stays. He's got 13 films on his upcoming list. But I'll certainly keep my ears open about that Hawaii one. Okay, let's see. Last of the Time Lords writes, what are we more likely to get, Iron Man 4 or Cap 4? I'll say Iron Man 4. When Iron Man 3 goes over the $1 billion mark, I think Iron Man 4 makes that the logical choice for the most likely next one. Not that either are guaranteed, but I think most likely would be Iron Man 4. Sean Donahue writes, close to a year ago, you said on Jedi Council you knew about a new Star Wars animated series. Is that Forces of Destiny, or is this something you still can't talk about? I'm not going to answer that question. Sorry, it's just something... I'm not going to answer that question. Forces of Destiny was something that I knew about well in advance. Actually, to be fair, a lot of people did. I wasn't nearly as alone in knowing about that. There was a number of other online film journalists and film journalists that I talked to that totally knew about Forces of Destiny before it was public knowledge. Everybody seemed to know about it, but it was just an agreed upon thing. Hey, you know what? Star Wars, Disney and Star Wars, they don't want that out there yet, so we're just going to respect that and not put it out there yet. It's not like some important news that people need to know. So everybody just kind of went, yeah, we're just going to sit on that right now. I am sitting on something right now about the Han Solo movie that I don't know that everybody else knows about. I talked to one other guy who knows about this Han Solo thing. But again, it's not earth-shattering, but it's just something I know that they don't want out there yet because they would consider it a spoiler, so I'm just going to sit on it. But yeah, the Forces of Destiny thing, there was a whole bunch. There were a whole bunch of people that knew about it, but just sat on it, which happens a lot more often than you think. It happens a lot more often than you think, that a bunch of journalists do know about something and just don't decide not to talk about it for one good reason or another. It happens more often than you think. Especially when it's not like vital information that the audience has a right to know and needs to know, especially when it's a situation like that. There was also information I got on another Star Wars anime thing, but I can't really talk about that. Joe Byram writes, Joe Byram just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much, Joe. Matt Thornton writes, what are some of your favorite Studio Ghibli movies? Whisper of the Heart is my personal favorite. A sweet... slice of life, coming of age story that is somehow so magical. You know what? I have never seen Whisper of the Heart. So that would be a good one, by the way. Shameless plug time. That would be a great one to jump on the Stardust app and do a recommendation for our what we're watching segment. So that would be a great one for you to do. I've been asked this question a lot, and my answers always just kind of stay the same. Every single time. I mean, there's a bunch of standard ones that we all kind of watch. So, but that's interesting. Whisper of the Heart is one I have not seen, and maybe that's one I need to get caught up on. Thanks for the recommendation, man. Let's see. Out of Time, Back to the Future fan writes, What are your thoughts about the movie Pleasantville? Honestly, it's one of my favorite movies and love how they use color in that film. Yet color became an act almost like its own, what's the word I'm looking for? MacGuffin. The color itself was almost like a MacGuffin. I mean, I'm misusing the term MacGuffin a little bit here, but in a way it kind of was. How color was used as about when things start to turn color represented this, it was very, very creative. I didn't love it, but I liked it. I liked the film quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of years since I watched it. But, as people started breaking out of the norms and then they would start to turn color, that was a very creative thing for them to do. Nice. That's a nice throwback one. Let's see. Tinos Flado writes, instead of cameraman, can I be your push the reset button on camera guy? If only I needed one of those, Tinos Flado. Let's see. Kendall Barker writes, Donald Glover made jabs at the television Marvel division, Perlmutter. FX and Donald Glover both left the deal because of disagreements with TV Marvel. I am not convinced of that. I mean, then again, I haven't read anything over the past hour about it. Let me just do a quick look here. Yeah, I don't see anything about that. Kendall, so do me a favor, jump into the comments section, leave a link to where you're hearing that was because of that, because I have not heard anything about that. And if you got somebody saying it, don't make that your source. Follow to where they got that from, because I haven't heard that. Maybe it's true. I'm just saying I've not heard that. Nothing that I've read officially suggests that at all. So, Chris Warden writes, hey, John, just so you know, we only give you a hard time because we care. Oh, I know that, Chris. Also, how would you feel if Jennifer Garner wore the Iron Spider suit? I was going to say something, but I've opted not to say it. I'll let you just imagine what I was going to say. And I'm going to move on from that because I do not want to get myself in trouble. Anthony R. writes, did you ever see the video of the woman who was caught cheating and then pretended to be a sex doll when the guy's girl busted them? I died. No, but I want to see it. Are you fucking kidding me? I want to see that video. Where is that video? Show me where that video is. That I gotta see. Oh my God, that sounds hilarious. But no, Anthony, I haven't seen it, but please share a link for it in the description, please, because my whole life right now is about two things. My whole life right now is about waiting for Scooby Natural, the supernatural Scooby-Doo crossover episode that's happening this week. And number two, waiting to see that video, because I want to see that video. Okay, next up, Dylan Trost writes, full solo trailer. Got to be soon, right? What are you talking about? We've got a full solo trailer. We've had a couple of solo trailers. So, but yeah, I would expect another solo trailer soon. I would expect we're going to get another one pretty quickly here, would be my guess. Time Lords writes, do you watch Bellator MMA? And if so, what are your thoughts on Mitrione versus Roy Nelson fight? I don't watch a lot of Bellator. Hold on a second. I don't watch a whole lot of Bellator because they put together so many like has-been fights. Like when they had Rampage Jackson versus Chael Sonnen, it's like, oh, come on, really? These guys who were both retired at one point come out and who would never survive a minute in the UFC anymore. It just kind of comes across, which is too bad because they have some really good talent on their roster. And what they do, what Bellator does is kind of what WCW used to do in its waning days. WCW had some really good talent on its roster, but they kept pushing their older, out of shape, no longer able to perform in ring talent just because they had big names. And eventually that led to their demise. Bellator has signed some really good guys, but they keep making their main event stuff people who just couldn't cut it in the UFC. And that's why I never make it a priority to go out of my way to watch Bellator. Although, like I said, they've got some good talent. Every once in a while, they catch my attention. I didn't watch the Mitrione Nelson fight. I mean, I heard about how it ended. I heard about Mitrione calling out Roy Nelson, all that kind of stuff. But I can't really comment on it too much because I didn't watch the fight because I simply just didn't care. But anyway, that's where I'm on that with Bellator. But look, if they keep signing really good talent, Because they've signed some really good guys away from the UFC. Not because the UFC cut them, but because UFC didn't want to match what Bellator was going to pay them. Like, you got McDonald over there now. A few other, Greg Mousasi, I believe, is over there. You've got a bunch of guys who made the leap. If they keep signing good, fresh talent like that and start to retire some of these other ridiculous fights, then they could make a real push to be a legitimate number 2 to the UFC. Let's see. Still got about 15 minutes here, guys. Let's go. Adam Griffin writes, I'm sure you'll do it as prep for tomorrow, but take some time to read that script and the Variety article on it. It's a mock script he wrote, not real. Oh, see, that's interesting because I thought it's like 15 pages from a real script. Are you positive it's just a mock script? Because I heard it's actually, what I had heard was that it was an actual excerpt from one of the scripts of the actual show. If it's true, if what you're saying is true, Adam, and it's a mock script, well, that casts it all in a completely different light. That I have not heard. None of the official sites that I read about it, at least, again, earlier this morning, pointed towards that. But that would change the scenario, like, significantly. That changes the scenario significantly. Okay, good to know. Daniel Trost writes, best trailer you have ever seen? Probably Transformers 2. Let me take that back. Star Wars The Phantom Menace. Star Wars The Phantom Menace, best trailer I've ever seen. Didn't work out so well, but Phantom Menace was the best trailer I'd ever seen. DKid19 writes, if there is an airport scene that's times 10 in Infinity War, like the Russo brothers said, I don't think I'll be able to make it through this movie. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Everybody can talk a good talk. Everybody can boast before it comes on the movie. But look, it doesn't even have to be twice as good. If it's even anywhere near as good as the airport scene, then we're all going to be buzzing. Then we're all absolutely, completely going to be buzzing. So, let's wait and see. I'm sure it sounds like the scope is going to be bigger. And I think that's what the Russo brothers are talking about. The scope of this action sequence is going to be really huge. Now, whether that means it's going to be as good as the airport scene or not quite as good or better than the airport scene, we'll have to wait and see. But at least we know that the scope is going to be quite big. So, man, just one of many things that you and I, D-Kid, are so excited about this movie for. Let's see. GMZ1111 writes, thoughts on Robert Rodriguez's Sin City? I think it's top 10 in the comic book graphic novel genre, yet it always seems to be forgotten in conversations. Oh, the first Sin City is great. The first Sin City is great. Stylistically, I don't consider it a comic book movie because, to me, a comic book movie is, a series that's ongoing and has been going on for 30, 40 years. Like, to me, that's a comic book movie. Movies like 300, Sin City that are, isolated more like that. They're graphic novel movies, so I don't really count them that, but who cares? That's irrelevant. It's a great movie. The way he used style. See, sometimes some of these directors come along and they try to do style. And they put style over substance. And then it just comes across as pretentious garbage. Rodriguez's Sin City was style and substance. And it was, style used to enhance the substance. And it's just terrific. And actually, you guys know I have a background in visual effects. We actually worked on one of the scenes in that movie from a visual effects point of view. But I just thought the movie was terrific. Love that movie. And I don't know why it's not mentioned. Sin City 2 didn't help. Because Sin City 2 was terrible. And maybe that probably lowers in some people's memories the original Sin City about why they don't want to talk about Sin City as much. But I agree with you, man. Sin City was terrific. It needs to come up in conversations more often. Joe Byram writes, the one thing that most people aren't understanding about Princess Leia's accent changing in A New Hope is that she was mocking Tarkin. I just don't know that that's that big of a controversy. I don't hear many people ever talking about that, to be honest, or ever bringing that up as an issue. I think maybe once in my life or twice I've heard people talking about that. And if you're talking about the one particular scene with Tarkin, yeah, you're absolutely right. I completely agree with you. I don't ever recall that ever being a real issue in the Star Wars fan community, to be honest with you, but you are dead on. If somebody were to bring that up to you as an issue, your response would be the perfect response for it. Absolutely. Chris Parker writes, let's talk chess. I know you love Queen of Katwe. Oh, I love that movie. But have you seen Pawn's Sacrifice with Tobey Maguire or The Dark Horse, Cliff Curtis? Both are excellent. I have seen Pawn's Sacrifice. I have not seen Dark Horse. That one I have not seen. But since you brought up Queen of Katwe, speaking of films that people don't talk enough about, it is beyond me how more people did not go see Queen of Katwe. Queen of Katwe is so fucking good. It's so good. And it's one of those movies that as a piece of art, you just come out feeling good about people. Like, not a lot of movies make you come out feeling good about people. There's something magical that doesn't feel forced or awkward. It's just a true story, and the way they tell the story, Daniel Oyelowo is amazing in it. Lupita Nyong'o is fantastic in it. I can't remember the young girl's name who plays her daughter in it. Amazing. Queen of Katwe. Guys, do yourself a favor. If you've not watched this, and I know 90% of you haven't because nobody went to go see it in theaters, watch this movie. It's so good. But anyway, yeah, so speaking of movies that people don't talk enough about, thank you for bringing that up, Chris. Gareth Tucson writes, always a bigger fish from The Phantom Menace. Worst Star Wars scene? Ooh, it's up there. Monsters out there, digging in here. All this and no power? When's this we supposed to be in trouble? I don't know, whatever the line was. Oh my God. Oh my God. If it is not the worst scene ever, it's certainly up there. It certainly deserves mention amongst the worst Star Wars scenes ever. That and the whole diner scene. The 50s Mel style with, what was the character's name? Dak, with all the arms. Yeah, there's Camino, they're cloners. In the 50s style there. Coming right up, Han. I mean, oh my God. Oh my God. I just get angry thinking about it. But there might be a couple other contenders, but that fish scene would certainly be a contender, one of the contenders. Matt Thornton writes, I know it's early in production, but I have 2 predictions for Disney's live-action Mulan. 1, Mushu will be an ancestral spirit, not a dragon. Not a bad prediction, actually. 2, Jackie Chan will have a role. Also not a bad prediction. I also had a discussion with a friend of mine about that instead of like a dragon, whatever, might actually be a character. They might actually make it a character. But I do like your theory here as well, Matt, that he's like an ancestral spirit as opposed to a dragon. But who knows? Maybe they'll pull out all the stops and it'll be a dragon too. But I think it's either going to be an actual physical character or I like your theory as well. I'm very excited about the movie. Because really, when you think about the story in live action, this could be truly, in the true sense of the term, epic. This could be a movie epic on a really big scale, if done a certain way and if done right. And I'm looking forward to it a great deal. All right, just have time for a couple more here, then we're going to have to call it a day. Ray Stone writes, I love The Last Jedi, but was it an overlook by Rian Johnson using gravity bombs from a bomber in space, but doesn't take away from the great self-sacrifice scenes? Well, they were in space, but they were in orbit. I remember I had that conversation after I saw the first movie. They were in space, but they were in orbit. So there probably was still some gravitational pull there. I'm thinking they were close enough to the planet that there was still gravitational pull at play here. So I didn't have an issue with that. But that does raise the question. Even if I'm right, and that's a big if, but even if I'm right, and the fact that they're so close to the planet made like literally dropping and releasing the bombs feasible, doesn't that limit how useful those bombers are? Like, okay, so these bombers can only be used in close orbital combat. Anything too far outside of orbit, which is, 99.9999999% of space, and these bombers are useless? Unless they're used for like surface bombardments or something like that. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, I didn't have a big problem with it because specifically the way I interpreted it as I was watching the movie was that it was because they were so close to the planet that there were still the effects of gravity were there. So that's just my guess. Otherwise, they have to come up with some kind of science explanation for it. Let's see. That was Ray. The Gray Man writes, Yo, Gio, love your channel. Thank you so much. Are you familiar with Blomkamp's Oats studio endeavor? If not, highly recommend. If so, what's your favorite feature piece? No, I mean, I'm familiar with it, never watched any of it. Neil Blomkamp is a dude who's kind of fallen out of favor with me. I mean, just as a fan, just from a fan perspective. Like everybody else, I love District 9. I thought, what was the name of it? Elysium? Was that the name of the film? Whatever. The one he did, with the space station. I thought that was ass. And then I thought the one he did with, I thought Chappie was ass. So, yeah. But, I mean, look, when you go back to Neil Blomkamp's, indie work with his little vision, he's done some really cool short stuff. So I'm not really familiar, other than the fact that I've heard about it. I'm not really familiar with it, but if you are recommending it, I will go and check it out this afternoon. I will go and give it a look and see what I think about that. Dave Aitkins writes, "Hey John, the guitar maestro," very funny. "I know you're a big gaming fan. Did you ever own or play the Sega Dreamcast? Love to hear your thoughts." I never owned it because one of my best friends had it. So I never needed to own it. And we played a lot of games on that. I mean, I was the master of owning the most obscure video game systems. I had one video game system that ain't none. I guarantee you probably 90% of you never even heard of. But there was ColecoVision. I played that. There was the Activision. I had a video game system. The very first video game system I ever owned was an Atari knockoff called Leisure Vision. And I played the hell out of that system. I think the baseball game on it was my favorite. But it was one of the earliest incarnations. And then my uncles owned an Intellivision. And Intellivision was just the tits. Intellivision was the best in its day. And I always used to love it when my Uncle Paul, I have 4 direct relatives named Paul. 3 of them are uncles, 1 cousin. I have 3 Uncle Pauls, but my one Uncle Paul and my Uncle Doug, they would watch me sometimes, and they would always crack out the Intellivision, and I loved it. That's why I used to love it when they used to watch me, because they had the Intellivision. So there was that game system too. What were we even talking about? Oh yeah, the Sega Dreamcast. So yeah, not one that I played a hell of a lot of it, but I never owned it because I never needed to, because once again, my buddy owned it. All right, let's go. Next question. Anthony R writes, Feige doesn't want to acknowledge the Netflix shows, but it's getting harder to simply ignore all these new heroes, especially New York hero Spider-Man. It's not, that's the thing, I think, it's not hard. They just ignore them. It's really that easy. And he's been doing it pretty well. They've been ignoring it pretty well up until this point. So it may seem awkward to us as an audience, but Kevin Feige just keeps a separating wall between the cinematic universe and what's going on in Netflix. And from my perspective, when I'm looking at it, they don't seem to be struggling with it at all. Kevin Feige's perfectly happy to do that. It's not making it difficult. And you can say, well, why, if Spider-Man's in New York, why didn't Daredevil come help him? Because that's a different universe. It's not a different universe. They reference it. Well, Netflix references it, but the movies don't. So even though they have this symbolic connection, in season 2 of Jessica Jones, they mention the raft. And so even though they have these little symbolic connections, that's great, but they're just symbolic. There's no real connection between the two, and Kevin Feige is going to keep it that way unless someday Alan Horn makes him change it. But until that happens, I really don't think they're going to do that. All right, guys, that's all the time I have for today. That's a fresh hour right there. Thank you so much for joining. Listen, guys, if you did send in questions that I didn't have time to get around to, don't worry about it. Tomorrow on the companion video, I'm going to take and copy all these questions that you guys sent in that I didn't get around to. I'm going to paste them into a document, and I will address those. I'm not even going to read them, because when I do the companion videos, they're all fresh, because that's the way these are supposed to work. I'm going to put them in the document, and we're going to read them on the companion video tomorrow. So don't worry, your questions will get asked. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me here. I really love these afternoons, being able to do open mic with you guys. I have a lot of fun. I hope you guys do too. Thanks a lot for joining me. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.